All right, let's get started. Ready for a deep dive? Today, we're going way back
Oh,
to the roots of money. Yeah, we're talking ancient Rome.
Wow.
Their journey from basic bartering to, well, a pretty complex system that honestly still kind of shapes our world today.
It's amazing to think about, right? Like, we got these pieces of metal, these bills, even just numbers on a screen,
Right.
and it all represents value.
It does. It does. And we've got some really cool sources that reveal some pretty surprising connections between, like, everyday stuff you wouldn't think of and early currency, way before coins were clinking around.
Before coins, I mean, how did they even trade?
Exactly. Our sources point to bartering.
Yeah.
So you'd have to trade, let's say, a cow
Okay.
for, like, a plow. Can you imagine?
That sounds so inefficient.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like how many chickens for a new tunic?
Right.
It's mind-boggling.
And that's where livestock comes in, right? In a lot of early societies, cattle, they were like the ultimate status symbol. I mean, it was real wealth.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
You know, it's no coincidence that the Latin word for money, pecunia, it comes from pecus, which means cattle.
That is so interesting. Like, it
Yeah.
shows you how deep this idea of livestock as wealth was.
Absolutely.
And, like, even the Romans, with their advanced society, they still held on to those traces,
Mm-hmm.
right, in their language.
Absolutely, yeah.
And even in some of their rituals.
It's incredible how these connections kind of linger throughout history.
They do. It's like these echoes,
Mm-hmm.
from the past. But it wasn't all about cows, was it?
No, not at all.
There was another crucial commodity.
Ooh, let me guess.
Okay, go ahead.
Grain.
Good guess.
Yeah.
But our sources actually point to salt.
Salt.
Yeah. Now, it might seem basic, but in ancient Rome,
Okay.
salt was a big deal, especially for preserving food, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, no refrigeration back then.
Oh, right, of course. Salt was essential.
Absolutely essential. And get this is where we get a direct link to our modern world.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So, Roman soldiers, they received a special allowance,
Uh-huh.
specifically for salt.
Really?
And it was called a salarium.
Wait a minute. Salarium, salary.
Ding, ding, ding. That's exactly where the word salary comes from.
Wow, that blows my mind. You know, you don't think about it. You don't think about these everyday words and where they come from. But it's a direct connection to those early forms of payment.
It is. It's a reminder that, like, early money was tied to stuff that you absolutely needed to survive.
Right. Like, you need to eat, you need to preserve your food.
Exactly. But, the Romans, they weren't content with just bartering forever.
Of course not. The Romans, I mean, they were innovators. They were builders. They developed an empire. So they needed a more sophisticated system, right?
Right. And they did. They developed a coinage system. Now, in the beginning, things were still kind of rough.
Okay.
They used these bronze ingots called aries rood. Rood. And they were valued by weight, which...
Not very practical for your everyday shopping, I imagine.
No, not at all. Not at all. But eventually, they got smarter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they started casting these bronze coins. They were called A's grave.
Okay.
And those had inscriptions, and they had standardized weights. So that was a huge step forward.
It was a big step towards a stable, a reliable currency.
Right, exactly. But the real game changer, the thing that really put Roman currency on the map, was the denarius.
The denarius, silver denarius.
Yeah, in the 3rd century BC, that was a big deal.
It was.
Because it helped make trade much, much smoother throughout the whole Roman Empire.
Exactly. And not just trade within the empire, but beyond its borders as well. You know, the denarius, it became this kind of globally recognized currency because of its standardized weight, its purity. It built trust. It facilitated trade across vast distances.
This was a huge turning point, not just for Rome,
Right.
but for, like, the whole development of monetary systems in general.
Absolutely. The denarius, it really set a precedent for what a reliable, stable currency could achieve.
It's amazing to think about how, one little coin could have such a massive impact.
Yeah.
But of course, as Rome grew, their ambitions grew, their power grew, and so did their currency.
And their ego, probably.
Yeah, that too.
They were a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
And their money, well, it reflected that.
Absolutely. So we start to see these gold coins emerging.
Ah, yes. The aureus and the solidus.
And they weren't just, transactional.
No. No, they were symbols. They were status symbols. They were symbols of Rome's might, its wealth, its power.
Yeah. And this is where things get really interesting. Our sources actually show us that Roman coins weren't just about economic value.
Okay.
They were tools. They were tools of propaganda.
Propaganda.
Yeah. They'd often feature the emperor's image.
And
they'd carry political messages.
So it was about image. It was about control.
Exactly. Every time a coin changed hands, it was like a little reminder of the emperor's power.
It's fascinating, isn't it? The way they used coinage to really promote their power, their influence.
It really is. It shows you the connection between money, power, and perception.
It's a connection that we still see today. I mean, think about the symbols, the images on our own money. What do they represent? What messages are they trying to convey?
That's such a good point. We take it for granted, but it's all very deliberate, isn't it?
Very deliberate.
So we've gone from cattle to salt to the denarius to gold.
Quite a journey.
What do you think is the most lasting legacy?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Of the Roman monetary system?
Well, I mean, beyond the obvious influences like salaries and banking practices, I'd say it's the idea of a standardized and centrally controlled currency. You know, the Romans, they really demonstrated how important that is. A stable, reliable system. It's essential for a healthy economy.
Yeah.
And for political stability, too.
It's a lesson that we're still grappling with today.
Oh, absolutely. Especially now with digital currencies emerging.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it, how digital currencies are going to reshape our relationship with money.
It does. I mean, will we see a return to more decentralized systems, or will governments maintain control?
It's going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds.
It is.
You know, the Roman example shows us that money's about way more than just buying and selling.
Right.
It's about power. It's about communication. It's about empires rising and falling.
It's a story that's still being written.
It is. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Who knows what the future holds for money? But one thing's for sure, it's going to be an interesting ride.